It probably would take some psychiatry for me to explain exactly why I went out on the trail to Everglades City. I was living with my girlfriend, then and now wife, in Miami, and we wanted to find some unusual place to live. And we looked on a map and saw this Everglades City, which is on the edge of the Tamiami Trail, knowing nothing about it. And we drove out there, and I'd grown up in Florida, so it reminded me in a way of some old Florida coastal fishing communities that in other parts of the state no longer existed. So we drove out there in our old hippie van and came into town and saw a lot for sale for $10,000, and we just bought the lot, and the next thing you know, we were renting a house there and building a house in the middle of this strange town. Baron Collier basically created Everglades City. There were a few old pioneer, very tough old pioneer families that could brave the mosquitoes there, which were incredibly difficult even today. But Collier came in and he built this hotel called the Rod and Gun Club. He imported a chef from Bavaria. He was pretty sure that Palm Beach was going to be at his doorstep very soon. But he actually wanted to do something that was grand and something that would sort of put him in history forever as one of the great developers. The Florida myth got at him at a very deep level.
Baron Collier's dream never materialized, but the residents of Everglades City seemed to be just fine with that.
When the Everglades City population talked about the snowbirds, the northerners who came down, the snowbirds, they said it with a little sneer. So they weren't so happy about the tourism, even though tourism would have brought money there, because they wanted to be alone to ply their illegal trade, whatever it was. And culturally, they were just so far away from the hedonistic tourism that Florida represented. They didn't like it. I mean, they didn't have much respect for it. But the Everglades City residents had been sort of 3 generations of people who could live in the swamps, and I think live a life of lassitude pretty much until the next scam opportunity came along, or not scam, but the next illegal opportunity. And first it was the plume hunting for the fancy hats in Paris and New York. And after the plume hunting died down, the Everglades City kind of people went back to their hammocks until then came the rum running, and that was very big there. And then the alligator poaching was always a staple when the other things didn't work. And then finally, the drug smuggling. Tamiami Trail played its part in the drug running. First of all, the islands around there were very difficult to navigate, so these local fishermen could go out to the motherships and bring stuff in and elude the feds. But then they had to get it all to Miami, and there was a lot of truck traffic back and forth from Everglades City to Miami, thanks to Collier's Tamiami Trail. My wife and I were building a house in Everglades City, and as we looked around us, we saw people that were living in small fishing shacks and seemed to be impoverished in a way. I mean, they weren't starving, but they certainly weren't wealthy. And all of a sudden, about 3 or 4 years into us being there, we started seeing a fancy car, a Cadillac. They liked Cadillacs, and then another Cadillac, and all of a sudden satellite dishes and porches, additions on their trailers, and actually one guy bricked up his trailer and made it look like kind of a mansion. And then people leaving town. This was a very insular group of people, but all of a sudden they were taking vacations, and you started seeing these hints of this wealth and where was it coming from. And through the gossip mill, we found out where it was coming from. Everglades City had several drug busts, and the major one was when the feds came in and surrounded the whole town, pulled most of the boats out of the water, and marched all these guys off to jail. I was there to witness that. Unfortunately, I had just written an article in Rolling Stone magazine about Everglades City that focused on the drug culture, thinking that A, they would never see it, and B, there had already been articles in the Miami Herald, and I wasn't naming names, so they wouldn't care. Well, they somehow connected the national publicity in my article to this big bust. So we didn't stay in Everglades City too much longer after that.